Wild boars have become a serious threat. They don't just destroy crops, they attack livestock, uproot trees, tear apart ecosystems, erode field embankments, and cut off irrigation lines. There have even been cases where they stormed into people's yards, leaving panic and injuries behind. What used to be peaceful farmland now bears only deep hoof prints, torn up soil, and broken pens. Faced with this situation, we had no choice but to act, not out of recklessness, but to protect what's being torn apart day by day. With fully prepared gear and a pack of battle-hardened hunting dogs, we set off into the wilderness to track these beasts. This time, who will be the one to fall? Follow us and find out. Nightfall. We arrive at the edge of the fields bordering the forest, prime ground where wild boars emerge after dark. Rifles loaded, infrared scopes on, and dogs released into the shadows to silently pick up the scent. The night hunt begins. We move quietly through the still darkness. The infrared beam sweeps over patches of grass, revealing only the scarred earth where the boars have already rooted through. Suddenly, movement ahead. A sounder of wild boars is busily tearing up an entire section of field. I quickly draw a bead on the biggest one and squeeze the trigger. A sharp crack shatters the silence. The bullet hits true. My target stumbles, staggers, and drops instantly. The rest of the herd squeals in panic, scattering into night. We split up to pursue the fleeing animals. In the dark, a lone boar stands frozen, unsure where to run. I steady my aim with my breathing. One squeeze of the trigger, the shot cuts through the night and slams into its side. It bucks, crashes to the ground, twitches a few times, and lies still in the grass. Elsewhere, my partner suddenly finds himself face to face with another group. One of them spots him and freezes, glaring toward the sound. We can't let it sound the alarm. My partner locks in his aim, one clean shot, and the boar collapses without a sound. The herd bolts in all directions, and the field falls back into an eerie silence. Exhausted, we decide to return and regroup for the next hunt. A few days later, after careful planning, we set out again. This time, we hunt in the early morning fields. A thin veil of dew clings to the grass, and the breeze is deceptively peaceful. But the piece is an illusion. Boar tracks and freshly torn soil mark their challenge to us. With rifles checked and GPS trackers ready, we begin the chase. We move silently, making sure not to alert our quarry. A faint rustle from the brush ahead makes me signal the team to halt. I raise my rifle, holding my breath. Seconds later, a boar bursts out like a lightning bolt. No hesitation, I squeeze the trigger. The shot echoes across the damp ground, and the beast falls where it stood. Meanwhile, to the north, my teammate is lying in wait. A massive boar lurks in the tall grass, plotting its escape. Suddenly, it charges, trying to break through to another thicket, but it's too late. One precise shot drops it instantly, ending its short-lived breakout attempt. After the spoils of war exceeded initial expectations, the team decided to return to recuperate. However, on the way back, a slight movement in the bushes immediately alerted the team. Suddenly, a prey darted out like an arrow. Perhaps it was looking for a way to escape. Without hesitation, I raised my gun, aimed carefully, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out decisively. The prey slid long, leaving a deep imprint in the middle of the field. Another hunting session ended with breathtaking and dramatic moments. The seemingly inviolable monsters were now stopped, helping to protect the fields, livestock, and peace of the people. All hunting scenes in the video were carried out in accordance with the law, in areas that allow control of the number of harmful wild boars.
Le premier, tu vois? Ouais. Le dernier là-bas.
A hunting trip is an adventure brimming with emotions that are hard to describe. For some, it's the pure exhilaration mixed with intense concentration, that overwhelming burst of triumph when the game drops right in front of their sights. But for us, every hunt goes beyond those feelings. It's a journey to safeguard our villagers' harvests for what feels like ages. All our efforts tending the fields have been laid to waste by these wild boars. Enough is enough that we're heading out to hunt. Our first stop today, a hill to the west. My dogs were hot on the heels of an aggressive wild boar. My rifle was ready, but the boar was moving so fast I couldn't get a clean shot. One wrong move, and I could hit one of my own hounds. Bang, a perfectly aimed shot, and the boar tumbled forward. My pack quickly surrounded it. First target down. This hunt is already shaping up to be epic. Devil, and I pushed through the wild undergrowth, the kind of place wild boars always hide. Just as we expected, we soon heard the rustle of leaves in the distance, the telltale sign of a stampede approaching. My heart pounded as I tracked their movement. They seemed as oblivious now as they were when they destroyed our crops. The first boar came into view, and I squeezed the trigger without hesitation. At the sound of the shot, the rest of the herd panicked, scattering in every direction. Devil unleashed a flurry of shots at the fleeing boars, who desperately dove into the thickets, trying to escape their impending doom. We suddenly came face to face with a boar. It emerged slowly from behind a rock formation. Look at it, its eyes full of defiance, completely unafraid. I drew my rifle, bringing it into my sights. Before I could even fully register the moment, it charged, a blatant challenge. By the time it understood the danger, it was too late. I squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out, sharp and precise, then vanished into the stillness of the air. The boar lay there, a perfectly executed takedown. We moved to the grasslands, where boars are just as plentiful. Our dogs immediately started barking. From the dry, yellow reeds, a wild boar exploded, chased by our pack. I stepped back, steadying my aim. A forceful bang cracked the air. The boar lay motionless on the grass, unmoving as the dogs swarmed it. Devil pressed himself against a thicket, and I instinctively pulled back, too. A boar was approaching, oblivious to the danger lurking ahead. Devil fired a perfectly placed shot. The boar writhed on the ground, screaming in agony. It thrashed, and for a moment we thought the first shot would be enough, but the boar bolted, fueled by its last surge of strength. Devil wasn't about to let it escape that easily. A second, powerful shot rang out, and this time the boar went still, silenced on the earth. The sun had set, and observing became quite difficult, but for us, this was no real concern. Just beyond the fence line, I spotted a boar. I raised my rifle, locking the target in my sights. It was precisely at that moment the boar sensed the danger, but it was already too late. A powerful shot rang out, and the animal thrashed, collapsing to the ground, its delicious meal left unfinished.
Le dernier là-bas, tout seul.
Hidden behind a tree, I watched a boar charge right into my sights. Another heart-pounding encounter. In situations like this, you can't rush. Bang! This time there's no miss. The bullet ripped into the boar's body. It collapsed, thrashing in desperate pain, then went completely still. Today's hunt was a success. Every hunt is a story, a memorable experience of patience, skill, and raw survival instinct. As I said from the start, for us, this isn't a hobby or a sport. We are, at heart, good-natured farmers, but with the responsibility to protect our crops and ensure peace for our homeland, we are compelled to hunt. This action is protected by law and covered by insurance policies. At the boundary where civilization meets the wild, feral hogs are more than just a threat. They are the silent invaders of America's grasslands, hills, and forests. Fields torn apart, farms ravaged, and even lives endangered by their rampage. We can't stand idly by. Once again, we set out to confront this rebellious force of nature. In today's journey, will we maintain the upper hand? Will these monstrous beasts yield? Join us to find the answers. Kicking off today's hunt, we venture into the boundless grasslands, a haven where feral hogs lurk, waiting for their chance to wreak havoc. After meticulously checking our firearms, communication gear, and releasing the hunting dogs, our group swiftly sets off. From a distance, through my binoculars, I spot a feral hog charging across the grassland, kicking up clouds of dry grass with each heavy step. Without hesitation, I set up an ambush, steady my position, and raise my rifle. Aiming straight at its vulnerable spot, I pull the trigger. The bullet slices through the air, striking true. The hog tumbles a few times before collapsing in the field, silenced before it could even squeal. Suddenly, a rustling of leaves from nearby bushes signals danger. I instantly raise my rifle, eyes locked on every movement, tense with anticipation. In a split second, a massive shadow bursts out, charging across the grass like a living arrow. I swiftly track the target and fire decisively. The bullet tears through the air, striking the beast's flank. It staggers, loses momentum, and rolls across the ground before lying still, motionless. Leaving the grasslands behind after those thrilling takedowns, we press on, advancing toward the rugged hills where steep cliffs and treacherous terrain await. Here, feral hogs often lurk deep within dense thickets or hidden crevices out of sight. After checking our gear, securing straps, and readying our firearms, the team begins to move, slowly, deliberately, but with unwavering resolve. From a high, rocky outcrop, I scan the sprawling hills below. Suddenly, a dark shape darts through sparse trees, racing down the slope like a bolt of lightning. Without hesitation, I shoulder my rifle, lock the crosshairs on the beast's every move, and squeeze the trigger. The bullet whistles through the air, striking its target dead on. The feral hog stumbles, then tumbles down the hillside, completely subdued. On the opposite hillside, my teammate is locked in a tense confrontation. A frenzied herd of feral hogs is scattering chaotically across the rugged terrain. Unfazed, he raises his rifle, steadies his stance, and locks onto his target. A single shot rings out, sharp and commanding. The lead hog drops instantly, sliding down a rocky slope before coming to a lifeless halt. Suddenly, the barking of dogs echoes from the nearby hillside, signaling another prey's presence. I immediately move closer, cautiously scanning for tracks. Out of nowhere, a monstrous beast charges straight toward me, barreling like a swirling black whirlwind. Without a moment's hesitation, I hold my breath, raise my rifle, and pull the trigger. The deafening crack of the shot shatters the tense air. The bullet strikes the beast's head, and it collapses at my feet, motionless. The day's hunt concludes with precise ambushes and seamless teamwork among the hunters. The entire pursuit strictly adhered to legal regulations, and ensured ecological safety in the permitted area. There are places on this earth where people rarely tread, not because they're remote, but because they're dangerous. Take the deep, southern forests of the United States, for example. Here, wild boars don't just trample crops and destroy gardens. They attack livestock. They cause hundreds of road accidents every year. They put lives at risk. And we came here not for adventure, but to confront these beasts head-on, deep in the wilderness, where even a tiny mistake might mean no second chance. Curious yet? It's time to follow us into the storm and find out who the real hunters are in this brutal encounter. We began our journey along a snowy mountainside, each step sinking deep into the frozen earth. The air was razor sharp. Every few minutes we stopped, checking weapons, wiping down scopes, making sure our radios didn't freeze. Everyone was on high alert. Out here, even one moment of distraction could flip the situation in an instant. While moving uphill, we suddenly spotted a group of wild boars slowly trudging through the blizzard. I locked onto the massive alpha leading the herd. My breath rose in a cloud as I steadied my aim. The gunshot cracked through the white silence. Direct hit. The beast tumbled down the slope and lay still in the snow. The rest of the herd scattered in panic, crashing through the trees and breaking the deathly calm of the mountain. We couldn't let them escape. We pressed on. Their hoof prints in the snow led straight up the mountain ridge. 10 minutes into the chase, we spotted them again, moving single file through the fog. I dropped low, raised my rifle, and focused through the fogged-up glass. The shot thundered through the air. One more beast dropped instantly. The rest, gone in a flash, vanishing into the wilderness. At the same time, on the other side of the ridge, one of my teammates was waiting in ambush. A massive boar charged straight at him, snow exploding beneath its hooves. He didn't flinch, raised his rifle, took aim. Boom. Clean shot. The beast slid across the icy ground and collapsed, lifeless. After clearing the ridge, we found a fresh trail leading down into the forest below. Without hesitation, we regrouped, checked ammo, and made our way down the frozen slope. The forest was dead silent, blanketed in white. Then movement. A shadow darted between the trees. A wild boar running fast through the snow. I lifted my rifle in silence, aimed, fired. The echo rang sharp through the woods. The boar dropped on the spot, its heavy body sinking into the snow. Meanwhile, at Ben's position, one of our team's veteran marksmen, the forest exploded with barking. His dogs had cornered another boar, one trying to scramble up a rock wall and across a frozen creek. Ben didn't wait. He dashed forward, leveled his rifle, and squeezed the trigger. The bullet slammed into its side. The beast collapsed, slid down the icy rocks, and came to a stop in the freezing creek bed. Dusk began to fall. We decided it was time to head back before darkness consumed the forest. But just as we turned, a blur of motion. A boar sprinted past, cutting through the brittle brush in a desperate escape attempt. I spun on instinct, raised my weapon, and fired. Direct hit. The bullet struck its back. The beast jerked once, then collapsed into the snow. Silence returned.
Attention là-haut à gauche, deux bons à tirer à gauche.
A flawless end to an unforgiving hunt in a frozen wilderness. Every single shot was taken legally within the permitted boundaries of this region's hunting laws.